Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to decode a really cryptic but pretty urgent warning about a whole new class of threats coming out of the world of AI. And this is a silent danger, the kind that operates just beneath the surface of all these systems that we're starting to rely on every single day.
I mean, listen to that. It sounds like something straight out of a cyberpunk novel, right? But here's the thing. It's not fiction. This is part of a real observation from a developer who's right there on the front lines, seeing this stuff happen, witnessing this collision of AI and brand new, totally unseen security holes.
So what does this actually mean? Is this all just theory, or are we talking about a real, clear and present danger? Okay, let's just dive right in and figure out what this urgent message is really telling us about the future of AI security. All right, first things first. To really get what's going on, we've got to decode some of this jargon, because these aren't just abstract ideas. We're talking about real attack methods that people are seeing out in the wild right now. So that first clue we heard was Stego Agent. The best way to think about this is like a digital sleeper agent, but for an AI. It's this tiny, malicious piece of code that's hidden inside what looks like totally normal data. The AI processes it, and this thing just sits there, waiting to be activated. And when it is, its job is to poison or manipulate the model, but from the inside out.
But here's where it gets kind of scary. These Stego agents, they're not acting alone. They're just one piece of a much bigger puzzle, a whole ecosystem of really high-risk vulnerabilities. We're talking about attackers hiding malicious payloads in invisible web frames, running unchecked code at the most basic hardware level, and even, get this, embedding instructions in something as simple as a company logo.
And look, these aren't just isolated incidents. The attacks are designed to hit the entire system, from the inside out. We're talking about the deepest level, the kernel layer, where they can literally seize hardware control. Then there's the edge layer, on your device, where local AI models can be hijacked. And finally, across the whole network, they're using all these clever visual tricks to fly completely under the radar. Okay, so all of these individual attacks, they're really pointing to a much, much bigger and more fundamental problem. It's about how we've built our entire AI infrastructure. The experts have a name for this: a zero-trust failure. Basically, it's a breakdown where that critical link between an AI making a decision, that's the inference part, and the data it's getting is no longer secure. It creates this totally uncontrolled backdoor. And the bottom line is, we just can't trust what the AI is seeing anymore. And even worse, we can't trust the decisions it's making based on that data. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly explains the core problem here. The very thing that makes AI so powerful, its ability to learn from us, from our behavior, that's the exact same thing being used as a weapon against it. If it can learn, well, it can be taught the wrong things, secretly. But wait, it actually gets even more sophisticated than that. There's a name for the most advanced version of this attack, and it's a technique that's pretty much invisible to our normal security tools. It's called distributed neural poisoning. Now think about it like this. Imagine you wanted to poison a city's water supply. You wouldn't just dump a huge barrel of poison into the reservoir, right? That's too obvious. Instead, you'd have 1 million people each add one single invisible drop into their own tap. The effect is slow, it's spread out, and over time, it's absolutely devastating. Well, that's exactly what this attack does to an AI's brain. And this is why it's so hard to spot. It's almost invisible, because every little piece of the attack is designed to be subperceptual. We're talking a single pixel in an image, one single token in a huge stream of text. These little micro-manipulations happen over millions and millions of interactions, and the AI itself has no memory of any of them, so its logic just silently drifts. And the scariest part? Models trained on data scraped from the web might already be compromised. So this leads to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? If you can't even see the attack, if it's literally designed to be invisible, how in the world are you supposed to fight it? Okay, let's talk solutions, because this threat requires a totally new way of thinking about AI security. You just can't use old tools to fight a new kind of war. The answer is a pretty fundamental shift in thinking. Traditional security was all about building firewalls to protect servers from bad data packets. But this new security? It's about building firewalls to protect an AI's mind from malicious thoughts. It's about monitoring its behavior to protect its core integrity. So what does that actually look like? Well, it means we have to create a whole new class of tools.
We need systems that act like a watchdog, constantly tracing every single API call to see what the AI is thinking at the deepest possible level. And these tools have to be smart enough to spot dangerous patterns, like when an AI gets caught in a loop, learning from its own bad output over and over again. And maybe most importantly, every single decision it makes has to be explainable and interruptible. We need a kill switch before a bad call is made. Look, the defense has got to be just as sophisticated as the attack. We're talking about some really next-generation stuff here. Tools that can spot the absolute tiniest malicious changes to a model's internal logic. Just imagine a system that's constantly monitoring the statistical DNA of an AI, and it flags the very instant it starts to drift from its normal behavior. It's almost like an immune system that detects a foreign cell. This is a whole new frontier for cybersecurity, one that's focused on behavior, not just filtering out bad data. Okay, so after all this technical detail, what does it really mean for the bigger picture? What are the stakes for all of us in this future we're building with AI?
The takeaway here is, well, it's profound and honestly a little bit chilling. We've built this global network of millions of artificial minds. We've connected them all to the internet, and we've given them full access to learn from everything out there. And we did all of that without first coming up with a single unified plan for how to secure them from these kinds of silent, manipulative attacks. And that really leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling question to think about. Sure, the developers on the front lines, they're awake to the problem. But as these AI systems get woven deeper and deeper into our daily lives, you have to ask yourself, is just being aware of the problem enough? Or are we already playing a game of catch-up that we just can't win?